Steal a Brainrot is now one of the most popular games on the Roblox platform. The game features different characters, or otherwise known as Brainrots, and today I will be explaining each one in detail for you guys. But before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe with notifications on to help me reach 100,000 subscribers and join the Discord as well while you're at it. Before we start, I need to break down the tiers. We have the common tier, rare tier, epic tier, legendary tier, mythic tier, and of course the Brainrot god tier. There are also secret Brainrots, but today we won't be covering those. But to start off, let's talk about one of the most important mechanics in Steal a Brainrot, the mutation multipliers. Mutations aren't just cosmetic. They can massively increase your income per second, and I mean massively. So what exactly are mutations? Basically, when you get a Brainrot, there's a small chance it'll have a mutation. This gives it a multiplier bonus to its base income. The stronger the mutation, the more money you can earn. Here's a quick rundown of what each mutation does. Gold gives a 1.25x boost, diamond is 1.5x, candy jumps all the way to 4x, and rainbow is a crazy 10x multiplier. There are also limited event mutations like blood rot, which doubles income, but those are only available during specific updates. You can only have one mutation per Brainrot, and if you apply a new one, it replaces the old one. That's why most players will save their rare mutations for their best Brainrots. You can get mutations randomly when you claim a Brainrot or during events and trades. Rainbow and candy are super rare, but pulling one can turn even a trash tier character into an income machine. So if you're serious about scaling your empire, mutations are the key. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the very first tier of Brainrots you'll come across, the common tier. These guys are cheap, easy to find, and honestly kind of goofy looking. But don't underestimate them. In the early game, every coin counts, and these Brainrots are your foundation. You'll spot commons right away. They usually appear in the first few minutes of starting a run. First up, the absolute cheapest Brainrot in the game, Nubini Pizzanini. He costs just 25 bucks, and he earns you $1 per second. He's literally the tutorial guy, a walking pizza delivery noob, but hey, he's perfect when you're broke. Next, we've got Literally Larila, a little fairy looking Brainrot who costs 250 and brings in $3 per second. Still weak, but great if you want to scale quickly without saving for too long. And there's the legend himself, Tim Cheese. He's $500, earns 5 per second, and yes, Tim is iconic. If you don't have Tim early on, what are you even doing? Moving up, we've got Flurry Flura. She costs $7.50 and gives you 7 per second. This is usually the last budget option before you start hitting 4-digit prices. Then we meet Taupa Di Ferro, a mole with iron claws. 1,000 bucks, but he makes $9 per second. He's the first common that actually starts to feel like an investment. Right after him is Venina Bombardino, a pig with bombs. He's 1.2k and earns 10 per second. Good value for price and pretty fun to watch explode. And finally, the king of the commons, Peepee Kiwi. He costs about $1,500 and brings in a solid $13 per second. If you mutate him with candy or rainbow, he actually becomes competitive with mid-tier Brainrots. So yeah, commons might be weak, but they're the building blocks for every base. Stack them early, mutate them if you're lucky, and sell them off once you're ready to climb the rare and epic territory. Before we get into the flashy epics or powerhouse legendaries, there's a tier that a lot of players overlook. I'm talking about the rare tier Brainrots. These characters are cheap, reliable, and honestly pretty cracked for their price if you use them right. Rare Brainrots usually cost around $2,000 to $9,000, and their income ranges from $15 to $65 per second. Not bad, especially for early to mid-game grinding. Starting off with Trippy Troppy, costs $2,000, earns 15 per second. He's goofy looking and barely pulls weight, but hey, he's a step up from the commons, and a great filler for early game. Next up is Tung 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 Sahur. He runs you about $3,000 and earns 25 per second. Then we have Gangster Futera, one of the most meme-worthy Brainrots in the rare tier. $4,000 to grab and $30 per second income, and a whole lot of swagger. Bandito Bobrito joins the squad next, 4.5 thousand and makes 35 per second. Honestly, one of the most balanced picks in the range. Then there's Bonica and Balabu. It'll cost you 5,000 and earns 40 per second. Cacto Hippopotamo, a cactus hippo hybrid that gives $50 per second for $6,500. That's some serious early return on investment. Tata Tata Sahur, the brother of Tung Tung, costs 7,500 and gives 55 per second. And finally, the rare tier goat, Trick Trick Barraboom, 9,000 to buy and earns 65 per second. The best in the rare category. Mutate this one and you've got epic tier income at rare tier pricing. So here's the deal. Rare Brainrots are clutch in early game. Stack a few, grab a gold or diamond mutation, and you'll scale way faster than relying on commons alone. Now that you've moved past the commons and rares, it's time to step into the big leagues. Let's talk about the epic tier Brainrots, the first set of characters that start feeling actually powerful. Epics usually cost about $20,000 to $40,000, but they give you massive income boosts for the price. Let's kick it off with Berber Patapim. He costs $15,000 and earns you $100 per second. Super affordable and a great starting epic for scaling up fast. Then we've got Cappuccino Assassino. Only $10,000 and makes 75 per second. He's a little weaker than the others in the tier, but still a solid pick if you're on a budget. Next up, Trulimero Trulicina. Easily one of the best value epics, $20,000 cost, and brings in $125 per second. You'll probably keep this one in your base longer than most other epics. After that, we've got Bambini Crostini, who earns $130 per second for 22.5k. Same income as a rare legendary, but for less cash. That's what makes epic tier so efficient. Top tier value for mid tier price. Then there's Bananita Dolphinita, half banana, half dolphin. Costs $25,000, earns $150 per second, and she's one of the best designs in the game. Pirocello Lemoncello is next. Lemon themed, wacky, and earns $160 per second. He's the perfect mid-tier epic to mutate if you're chasing efficiency. Okay, this next one has a name you'll never pronounce right. Bree Bickus Dickus Bombicus? Anyway, he's $30,000 to buy and earns $175 per second income. Then we hit the top tier epics. Salamino Penguino, a penguin with salami arms. He costs $40,000, but he pumps out $250 per second. That's as strong as an early legendary. Use him with a candy or rainbow mutation, you're breaking 1,000 per second easily. And finally, Avocadini Gufo. Owl? Avocado? How about both? He's $35,000, but earns $225 per second, and rounds out the epic tier with some seriously underrated income. So here's the play. Stack epics, mutate them, and use that cash to launch into legendary or even mythic territory. They're cheap enough to buy in bulk, strong enough to mutate, and efficient enough to carry on your run. Alright, now that you've overgrown the epic tier, your base is booming, and now it's time to unlock the real mid-game powerhouses. Let's dive into the legendary tier Brainrots in Stealer Brainrot, the characters that bridge the gap between casual moneymakers and absolute income machines. Legendary Brainrots usually cost about $150,000 to $300,000, but their income ranges from $600 a second all the way to $1,200 per second. This is where you start printing money, especially if you land on a good mutation. Let's start off with Chef Crabracadabra, a crab with a chef hat and some serious attitude. He costs about $150,000, but earns about $600 per second. He's usually the entry point into the legendary tier. He's cheap, reliable, and stylish. Next up is Lionel Cactusili. He earns $650 per second for 175k. Solid mid-range pick and one of those cooler designs in the tier. Then we have Glorbo Fruto Drillo. Yes, that's a crocodile made of fruit. He's $200,000 and generates $750 per second. An underrated pick that really shines with a candy mutation. Now we're getting serious. Strawberry Flamingelli costs $275,000, but she earns a huge $1,100 per second. That's nearly double what epics make, and she's a prime candidate for your first rainbow mutation. Right behind her is Blueberrini Octopusini, a literal blueberry octopus hybrid. He costs $250,000, earns $1,000 per second, and makes a great combo if you're stacking mutations. And topping off the legendary tier is Pandacini Bananini. It's weird, but it works. $300,000 buy-in, and he generates $1,200 per second, making him the highest earning non-mythic Brainrot at this stage. Now here's the key. Legendaries give you the best return on investment if you're planning to mutate them and hold them long term. Alright, now we're stepping into serious territory. You've mastered the legendaries and your income is solid. Now it's time for the mythic tier Brainrots. The elite squad that turns your base from rich into ridiculously rich. They cost anywhere from $400,000 to $3 million in cost, but generate between 1.7k and 10k income per second. They're rare, they're expensive, but they're built different. First up, Orangutini and Assassini. Costs $400,000, earns $1,700 per second. He's the entry-level mythic, and a great first pickup if you're looking to scale gently. Next is Rhino Toasterino. Yeah, a literal rhino that is a toaster. $450,000 cost, but it earns $2,100 per second. Kind of a mid for a mythic, but very efficient with mutations. Bombardiro Crocodiro is a fan favorite, 500,000 to buy, but generates 2,500 per second. He's often the go-to if you're aiming for fast return value. Now here's where it gets spicy. Spionero Golubiro, a lucky mythic, goes for 750,000 and earns 3,500 per second. Definitely worth picking up if you spot him glowing gold. Then we have Zebra Zubra Zebralini, the lucky zebra trio, $1 million, but pulls in a fat 6,000 per second. A candy or rainbow mutation on this would be ridiculously OP. Tigerlini Watermelonini costs the same, 1 million, but earns even better, 7,500 per second. Absolute monster if you catch it mutated, especially early in a run. And don't forget Bombonini Gusini, super rare mythic with a 5,000 per second income. Decent base stats, but with a rainbow mutation, that's 50,000 per second. Enough said. And then there's Gorillo Watermelon Drillo, $3 million, but he earns 8,000 per second, and the heaviest lifter within the mythic tier. Right behind him is Cavallo Virtuoso, a majestic horse brainrot that earns 7,500 per second for just $2.5 million. Definitely a late game favorite. Now here's the play. Mythics print money. If you land even a single rainbow mythic, you're earning tens of thousands per second. And if you're lucky enough to pull 2 or more mutated, well then you might just be able to afford a brainrot god tier character. Your base is stacked, your income is skyrocketing. Now it's time to meet the brainrot gods. The ultra rare, ultra expensive, and ultra powerful characters, these are the brainrots you flex with. The ones that take your income from millions to hundreds of millions per second. God tiers usually cost 5 million to 35 million to lure, and their income ranges from 10,000 to 200,000 per second before mutations. Let's take a look at each one and why they're so OP. We'll start with the cheapest of the gods, Cocofanto Elefanto. He's a coconut elephant hybrid, costs 5 million and brings in 10,000 per second. That's already better than most mythics, and he's just the warm-up. Next is Giraffa Celestra. It costs 7.5 million to get, but gets you a clean 20,000 per second. Very efficient. Then there's Gatanino Nianino, a neon cat that's gonna run you $7.5 million, but earns a whopping 35,000 per second. Stick a candy or rainbow mutation on this one, and it's game over for your friends. Tigro Ligra Frutoni is a lucky brainrot god, half tiger, half fruit hybrid. He costs $15 million to lure, but he generates 60,000 per second. That's secret tier power for half the price. Even better, Orcalero Orcalar, also 15 million, but earns 100,000 per second. That's almost double the value of the character we just looked at. This one's often considered a must-have if you're targeting a 9-figure income. And then we've got Trallalero Tralala. It somehow only pulls in 50,000 per second, but will also cost you an arm and a leg. And finally, the crown jewel of the god tier, Ballerino Lololol. He costs a massive 35 million, but he earns $200,000 per second. With a rainbow mutation, that's $2 million per second from one single character. Let that sink in. God tier brainrots are hard to get, but game breaking when you do. Get even one rainbow god tier in your lineup, and you're not just playing to win anymore, you're playing to dominate. So to recap, brainrot god tier is where the real power begins. They cost between 5 and 35 million and bring in up to 200,000 per second. And with the right mutation, especially rainbow, these guys can generate millions per second on their own. Whether it's the low cost Cocofanto Elefanto, the massive payout from Orcalero Orcalar, or the insane numbers from Ballerino Lololol, if you land even one of these guys, your base is going to explode in the best way possible. But as always, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy content like this, please make sure to subscribe with notifications on. To help me reach 100,000 subscribers, join the Discord for daily updates, and if you want to watch something similar to this, click the video on screen now.